Welcome to Chapter 1 of State and Local Government, POLS 350. Our objectives for Chapter 1 is to 1. Understand the importance of state and local government in today's contemporary America. 2. To identify ways in which states and localities have increased their capacity to get things done. 3. To appreciate the challenges that state and localities confront on a daily basis. 4. To recognize how changing public attitudes influence government behavior. And 5. To understand the changing demographic landscape in the United States. So, how should state and local governments operate? They should operate efficiently, effectively, and equitably. And this is the ideal. To be efficient means that a state uses no more resources than what is necessary. To be effective means that they are providing the goods and services to the public that is wanted and needed. And to be equitable means that you're being fair to the citizenry within the state. So, in studying state and local government, what issues are important? What uh, framework should we set in talking about state and local government? Well, the first thing is capacity. What ability does a state or local government have to respond effectively, efficiently, and equitably, which we just spoke of? Another thing that needs to be discussed is jurisdiction. What is the territorial range of the government authority? Can a government uh, regulate something that is not within their jurisdiction? Federalism, which is, of course, a system of government that divides power between a central, such as the U.S. government, and regional governments, such as our states. And a couple things that we'll talk about is what is the relationship between the federal or U.S. government with the states and local governments, and how do these relationships affect government's ability to serve the public? And so sometimes from the federal government, they provide really great resources to the states that would be very difficult for the states to provide without. But on the other hand, there's also that comes with restrictions about how those resources have to be used. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Uh, Capacity is important for state and localities. And so they are always innovating to try to do more, but they are also experimenting. And state governments are known as laboratories of democracy. And we have this quote: "It is one of the happy incidents of the federal system," Justice Louis Brandeis wrote in 1932, "that a single courageous state may, if its citizens choose, serve as a laboratory and try novel and social and economic experiments without risk to the rest of the country." So our state governments can try novel ideas that will improve what is going on in that specific state. If it is successful, other states can copy the same program. If it is unsuccessful, then the other states will know not to copy that sort of thing. And then the original state that started the novel program can then uh, uh, dissolve it, and that is the only state that has been affected. So that's a really cool thing that state governments do. How do state and local governments increase their capacity? Uh, well, there are 5 ways. They can expand the presence of lobbyists. They can modernize their constitution. They can strengthen the power of the governor to get some things done. They can improve the workings of the bureaucracy, and they can unify the court system within that state. Um, to also increase their capacity and improve their performance, they can improve their revenue systems, how they collect taxes. the method of which they collect their taxes. They can expand the scope of state operations. That would increase the capacity of the government to do more things. They can do what innovations they're going to use even faster than they do. They can have more cooperation with other jurisdictions. Uh, Alabama could cooperate with Georgia. Um, Macon County, Alabama could cooperate and get things done with Lee County, Alabama. So jurisdiction within different governments. The city of Tuskegee, Alabama could do more cooperation with Macon County. And also, as we've had an increase in conflict between the national government and state government, uh, we have, as we have increased conflict between state and national governments, uh, that has increased the capacity of the state government. Okay, so what are our challenges um, to facing state and local governments? Well, there's a fiscal stress, an increased jurisdictional conflict, and political corruption. These all challenge our governments. So there's always fiscal stress. And what is that saying? Is state and local governments are always struggling to pay their make their budgets. And when you have um, economic downturns, they still have to balance their budgets, and that's very stressful. There's always interjurisdictional conflict. Georgia wants more water. They want to get water out of the Chattahoochee River. The state of Alabama wants to keep the water that is available to them from the Chattahoochee River. That causes interjurisdictional conflict. Another challenge is always political corruption of people wanting to use the resources of the government to, frankly, line their own pockets. And of course, that's political corruption. Another thing that we talk about is that's very interesting is political culture or attitudes, values, and beliefs that people hold toward government. And we'll talk about moralistic, traditionalistic, and individualistic culture. So, almost all Americans believe that individuals have certain natural rights, including the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Thomas Jefferson borrowed those concepts from English and Scottish Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke and John Hume, and they neatly summarized them in the Declaration of Independence. And they are now ingrained in our American imagination. So, if we as Americans can find political consensus around our policies, why is our nation so divided? And it goes back to we of us having so many political cultures. So why are we so divided around gun control, gay marriage, and education? You'll see lots of variation in the details of American political life. You can buy pot for recreational use in Colorado, but you better not take it into Utah. You can open carry your gun anywhere you want in Texas, but you better keep it at home, safe and sound, and locked up if you're in New York. Americans interpret these broad Jeffersonian concepts of government, rights, and freedoms in different ways, largely depending on where they live. Political scientists describe a phenomenon known as a state political culture, which is a set of beliefs and attitudes that are consistent over time and confined to a certain geographic area. Some experts say that we owe these variations in political beliefs to the original immigrants who settled the land in particular parts of the country. These immigrants brought their grudges from the old world to the United States, and those views melded with American values. The Puritans stamped their views of society and politics on the Northeast, and the Scandinavians put their own mark on the Midwest. In 1972, the celebrated political scientist Daniel Elazar wrote that each state has its own political culture shaped by the original settlers in the state. He divided the country into these three political cultures, being moralistic, individualistic, traditionalistic, and individualistic. Um, the Puritans and later the Scandinavians settled in the north and migrated across the country. Let's look at the moralistic culture. So you see here the moralistic that goes, you see in Illinois, Minnesota, Montana, across the top of the country. They were interested, they were motivated, so let's see. They were interested in society being more important than the individual. The individual is not suppressed in any way, but the group recognizes the need of individuals to assign value to the group. Government is seen as a positive force. This emphasizes the Commonwealth conception as the basis for democratic government. Politics is considered one of the great activities of man in the search for the good society. Good government is measured by the degree to which it promotes the public good. Issues are important. Politicians are expected not to profit from political activity. Serving the community is the core of the political relationship, even at the expense of individual loyalties and political friendships. In practice, this often results in more amateur participation in politics than in the other political cultures. Upper New England, the upper Midwest, and portions of the West are the central areas for this cultural type. Secondly, we have the individual political culture, and let's go back and look at this area for a second. This is in the yellow. We see New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Nevada, and also Alaska. All right. In the individual political culture, government is seen as having a very practical orientation. We have governments for very utilitarian, useful reasons. It need not have any direct concern with questions of the good society. It's just getting the job done. There's an emphasis on limiting community or government intervention into private activities. In this case, government should be largely restricted to those areas which encourage private initiative. Private concerns are more important than public concerns here. To a significant degree, there is cynicism about government. Dirty politics are accepted as a fact. The key to understanding this type is that people accept dirty politics as the way things are and the way things should be. Okay, so let's have a small government because the government is corrupt and dirty. So the middle Atlantic states through Illinois into the west is the area most prevalent for this type of culture. If you'll think about former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, who was convicted of several counts of fraud. It was claimed that he tried to sell an Illinois Senate seat. And of course, this took place in Illinois. Lastly is the traditional political culture, and this is what you have in the Deep South. Social and family ties are prominent. Families run government over generations. It's an older attitude of a hierarchical society. Government is seen as an actor with a positive role. and the